awesome. Hey guys, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here, hello, and as you can tell, high gain.
Yeah.
How does this work? Oh, there we go. It's not my thing. Interesting. Bridge pickup there.
Oh, okay.
Note pickup there.
There you go.
Cool. All will be revealed about why this guitar is here in a minute. So what are we doing today, Dan?
We are we're answering a question.
Yes.
When we, as we do quite often, feature lovely, large, high headroom amplifiers, there's always a couple of people that say, "Oh, I use dirty amplifiers. What about me?" So what we wanted to have a look at today was pedals that work well with dirty amplifiers, or just concepts that will work well with dirty amplifiers.
Yeah, so we've sort of gone extreme, really. We've got among the sort of dirtiest modern amplifiers, which is the VX100 Super Kraken. I know this amp really well because I made the demo videos with Rabia Masad for Victory, so I know this amp really well, and I know that it's super high gain and how it works. And then we've got probably the cleanest, loudest, highest headroom amp that we have, which is a 1973 Hiwatt DR103. So we are talking...
My heart leaps every time you say that.
Polar opposites of front end gain. I mean, This is still 100 watts, so it's still got plenty of headroom. But in terms of front end gain, it has loads. So the questions are, how gainy is gainy? We'll make the amp very gainy and less gainy and see how that works with pedals. And yeah, a collection of common not common, but common types of effects pedal. What have we got on there, Dan?
We have a standard TS9 Tube Screamer. We have the RC Booster, which is the Scott Henderson signature model. We also have the Analog Man NKT Red Dot Sunface, because fuzz is very important, talking about gained up amplifiers. Then we have the Filaments by Robert Keeley, which is one of my, if not my favourite high gain distortion pedal.
Just a brilliant distortion pedal.
Just amazing.
Exceptional.
And then we do have, we've got the Echo System and the Reverb pedal, and that is by PRS. And then we also have the Echoplex delay and the Hallmod Reverb. So we're going to have a look at the loop of the amplifier, because that's another really important thing, talking about delays and reverbs.
So we're going to talk about using ambient effects in the loop of the amp or in the front, because it's always interesting. Whenever I talk to Rabia, I didn't give him a honk earlier, let's give him a honk now. 2 honks because I've mentioned him twice. And anyone who uses gain in their amps, when you tell them you run reverb and delay into the front of your amp, they look at you like you're insane.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair reaction, because the common position for ambient effects is in the loop of the amp, so we'll get to that. But yeah, a booster, an overdrive, a distortion, and a fuzz.
Yep.
What does that do to these amps?
Yep. Perfect.
Shall we begin, Daniel? We've got
Yes.
this, the Silver Sky's gone back, so I said, can you send us something else to use? And what we want is a very simple, mahogany-bodied humbucker guitar, because it's one thing that we don't have. And I like it. What is it? It's a single cut in the S2 series. It's not crazy expensive.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So they do full-on USA, they do SE, and S2 is in the middle, made in America.
Right.
I don't know, maybe 1,800 quid or something.
Okay.
And I could be talking out of turn there. It might be less or more than that. But not crazy money. Yeah, cool.
It's really nice.
It's got these.
Core tap jobbies.
Yeah. And yeah, anyway, blah, blah, blah. So a humbucker guitar, and we've also rebirthed the JEM.
We have.
I should have taken some iPhone footage of it, really, but I was changing the strings on it this morning. Swearing. Actually, to be fair, it wasn't bad. Took the 9s off, put 10.5s on, and put an extra spring in the back, and it seems to be fine.
Yeah.
Well, seems to be fine. So we will use some high output pickups. Right, let's stop yakking, Dan. Where should we begin? Should we hear the amps?
Okay. So the Hiwatt on its lonesome, just straight into the Hiwatt. Bridge pickup on the Telecaster. I had to play that chord because that's the chord that Knobs plays at the start of all of his demos.
Oh, really? That's for Knobs.
I love his demos, man. They're so cool.
Give it a whack.
So that's... So not crazy loud, just, you know.
We have installed, we've got two new, well, we've got many new things. So something is guaranteed to go wrong today. We've got some new things. We've got the dB meter, which we've installed at the back. And is that a good place for it? Don't know. What it means is you can see it. It's a constant. Doesn't necessarily mean, you know, it's behind the amp. So probably there's going to be more dB out there. But anyway, it's the most sensible place for it because it won't fit on the pedal board. And we've also got a new overhead pedal cam. Which may or may not work.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll work, and you'll be seeing my bald head in that very soon as I'm leaning over to adjust things.
Which means we've got the horrible GoPro out of this foreground here. So anyway, new things guaranteed to go wrong.
Yeah, so anyway, that's the Hiwatt. And then the Victory. What a sound.
I'll just let you hear both of those with humbuckers. Here's the Hiwatt. I'm never going to get used to that volume knob being there.
It seems logical because it's back, you know, it's yeah, well, but anyway. Totally. Killer.
I might tweak that up a bit actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's nice and loud. It's good with red, but with this it's losing a bit of definition. Just play a sec. I knew it. I knew he would go for the wang bar straight away. Is the guitar even... Will it stay in tune now?
Yeah, it
sounded so good before.
Oh, hang on. There you go.
Okay, we're going to have to come back to that.
There you go.
Nice. Let's hear it again. Can't help
That's
myself.
great.
It's cool. It actually sounds better with some heavier strings on it.
Yeah.
Right, let's get into this. You probably better put that down for the time being.
Okay.
I'm gonna get roundly criticised on the interwebs for instructing Dan what to do. But
it is so much better if he does. Right.
Messing with my chi a bit. That. Okay.
Right, let's begin.
Well, let's just go through them then. Let's start. Let's hear what this Ibanez TS9 Tube Screamer does into a clean amp.
Okay. Right. There you go, sir. Clean amp.
Okay, I'm gonna play a guitar that I'm more familiar with because
okay.
We'll get to high output pickups in a minute, but or higher output because I need to know what I'm hearing as well.
Sure.
So here you go.
Okay, so here's the clean amp, and how would you normally set this up with a clean amp?
On a Tube Screamer?
Yeah.
actually not. It's not pushing the Hiwatt as much as I thought it would. Actually.
So what do we got?
Seems quite quiet.
We've got quite a bit of level, but not a lot of drive.
No.
Okay, cool. Okay, that same sound.
It is lifting it quite a lot. I've deliberately set the Tube Screamer like this because, as I understand it, this is somewhat similar to how it gets set when used with really gainy amps.
Okay, let's have a listen.
Tell you what's interesting about that. I turned around and looked at the dB meter, and okay, we know it's not a great position for it, but it's lifting it by 1 or 2 dB.
Right.
Let's see what it does into the Hiwatt in terms of how much it's lifting it. Okay.
Yep. Substantially more.
Substantially more, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I think we have to get some feedback on that, whether it's actually doing anything there or not. The perception here where we're sat is that it's lifting the Hiwatt even more. That is not lifting that anywhere near as much as...
Try with the telly.
Yeah.
See, this is really interesting because we've got loads of headroom in that amplifier, right? So it's taking all the transients, you know, it's not compressing at all. So we are hearing a real punch on that input. Yeah, it is really interesting with the Tube Screamer. I thought it'd be much more of a, you know, push thing, especially considering where we have the volume.
Yeah. Keep that in mind. Let's move on to the RC booster and just have a little look at that for a second. That's doing what that's doing what I thought the Tube Screamer was going to do. So this isn't anywhere near as loud as my 808, for example.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
So keep going with that then. I'll just. So it's a good demonstration of that whole thing we talk about, which is headroom, and the even though the RC booster is set pretty much with all the controls straight up, it's lifting that Hiwatt from quite loud to really loud. Let's hear what it does in the Victory. I think we could end the show there, couldn't we?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So, yeah, perfect demonstration. So the Victory...
I pulled a muscle in my neck down.
How'd you do that?
Turning around, looked to see how loud it was.
See, you're doing a full twist to go and have a look at the meter.
Ah, man.
So the Victory, it's already like it has no more headroom left. Everything is absolutely gained to the hilt. So every bit of signal it hits is already square waving.
And just for reference, that is gain 1 in the Victory with it at halfway. So we're not even into the highest gain bit of it.
Right.
So we'll dial the gain back a bit in a minute and have a listen to that too. But for everyone who asks, I use gain in my amp, and every overdrive pedal I plug into it sounds rubbish.
There you go.
There's your answer.
Yeah.
So what I'd be tempted to use this boost for is to sculpt a bit more.
Sure, absolutely.
Give some playing for a second. The telly's really present, has loads of treble, has quite a lot of bass as well, and it was certainly giving it more cut. As you can see, I've turned the bass all the way off. I wonder if the effect will be bigger on this guitar.
Yeah, right, because it's already sort of compressing.
Yeah, because when we plugged it in earlier, it just sounded a little bit, compared to the telly, a little bit flat, you know?
So you could even make it quieter, and it doesn't change the level at all. And going into the dirty amp, that's amazing.
And then quite a nice little demonstration there, unwittingly so, of what the tube screamer often gets used for in a lot of heavy music is in front of either a PV 6505 or whatever it was, 5150 EVH, or a rectifier to tighten up the bottom end, because the tube screamer has that EQ curve, right?
Sure.
And quite often in a lot of heavy music tracking, you'll see a tube screamer used to do that. In fact, the old Victory there has got a preset setting for that in.
Just remember Rebecca telling us about that.
Give us a riff a sec. adds a bit of gain, tightens up a little bit.
That's very cool.
Does what the tube screamer would do. And so that's what I was trying to do there with the RC, which is why I knocked all the bass off with this guitar. It didn't seem to make any difference to the Victory in terms of the bottom end response. No. Because what we're trying to do is drive the frequencies that you enjoy hearing driven, which are treble frequencies and upper mids. And you don't want any more mush in that bass, especially in heavy music, because you just don't need any more of it. You've got enough.
No.
And yet, into the clean amp, it sounded dreadful. Truly dreadful, didn't it?
Awful.
Here you go.
Wow.
Just beyond dreadful.
Yeah.
So...
Sorry, let me just hear that one more time into the Victory. That is amazing.
And what is it you always say about pedals? Just seeing if there's any film on that pickup. No. What do you say about pedals, Dan?
What's I say about pedals?
They have no sound.
Oh, yeah, right. Pedals have no sound. Pedals have no sound. They just react. And the amp just reacts to what's going into it. That's amazing. See, I had a thought, because the level is reduced, I had a thought that the gain would be reduced, but how that amp, even at that level, is so gained out that anything that hits it is just squashed anyway.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, especially at that kind of gain level.
Yeah, but the treble frequencies, it is pushing that and adding a bit more fizz, amazing.
Should we move on to a bit of distortion?
Yeah. So
what we'll do, when we've gone through the distortion and the fuzz, we'll clean up the Victory a bit and explore some of that grey area a bit more, which is possibly more interesting to a lot of people. But
sure. Okay, so this is the Hiwatt, and this is the Filaments. It's awesome.
Just play with it off for a sec again. God, I literally will never get used to this volume position.
So it sounds immense, but what I love about this is it's night and day, right? You've got this clean sound.
Day, night and cheese.
It's chalk and marshmallows. You've got this clean sound, and that it couldn't be further away.
Yeah.
Right. But now if we add that to the Victory. too much of a good thing?
I don't know. I think it'll sound pretty good. I think it'll sound like mega, and everyone will like, yeah, so chewy and brilliant. But if you did that at a gig, if you stepped on that while you're playing your song and you were hoping for some sort of boost or uplift or anything, just all you get is more mush.
Yep.
And in fact, with a lot of pedals, all you'll get is I can't hear you even more than I couldn't hear you.
Sure.
3 seconds ago.
Yeah.
With that level of gain.
Yeah. And you know, as you showed with the boost before, we can take the clean amp. If you play for me.
Yep.
So I've got complete control over the level of that sound from there as well. Whereas if I did the same thing into here.
Out of interest, how much louder can we make the amp go with the filaments into the Hiwatt?
Okay, so here we go.
Yeah.
Clean amp. That's killing.
That sounds really good. Sounds really, really good.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Fuzz. Let's finish on Fuzz.
Okay.
Before we do a little bit with less gain, and we'll talk about effects as well.
Yeah, sure. So Fuzz is really interesting because if you think of Jimmy, and his Marshalls were dimed.
Wish I could honk him.
And one of the first shows we ever did, we demonstrated some Fuzz into some really, really super clean amplifiers, Fender Twin, for example. And it was a cool sound, but because those amplifiers had so much headroom, you're hearing all the edges of the fuzz. Whereas people were, when you hear the way Jimmy used fuzz, because his amps were cranked, the compression of the amplifiers took those edges off the fuzz. Okay, so into the Hiwatt, I mean, it still sounds awesome. There you go.
They put the thing in upside down.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if mine had that. I don't think it did.
All JEMs did.
From the first one?
I believe so. I don't know. Look at me talking about JEMs like I know what I'm talking about. It's a cool guitar, actually. This is the JEM Jr, made out of mahogany, and put some heavier strings on it today, and it actually pretty cool.
It's great. Okay, so this is the sun face into the Hiwatt.
Sorry, dude.
You're all right, mate. No worries.
dry, innit?
Very dry, very dry. I mean,
dry
we can
today.
I'll just do this. I'll throw a little tiny bit of reverb on that. Right. So sun facing into the dirty amp.
Literally no idea.
It's all right. I was just say. So it's that thing with fuzzes where it's so it works off your volume pot, and it gives you that so you can hear it just absolutely caving in, right, on the gained up amplifier.
I want to come back to the fuzz in a minute, and as you're playing it, ease back the gain and turn up the master a bit, just to put us somewhere in the middle.
Okay, yeah.
Of these two amps. It's really, in fact, it reminds. So Rabia really struggles finding great fuzzes. And
Right.
fuzzes that work with his high gain sound.
Sure.
And there's a few that he uses that people will know about, but explains a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the reaction of we've said this many times on the show, but the reaction of pedals into a dirty amp is so different than it is into a cleaner amp.
Yeah, and you change any part of that gain structure on the amplifier,
Yeah.
and then everything's going to react differently.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be, if you, let's say you pull the gain back a little bit, then all your boosts become so much more effective, but treble frequencies poking through more. So I think for me, having an amp with headroom, whether it's quiet or loud, if there's headroom there, the pedals are fairly consistent.
Yeah.
But one thing that I struggle with into a dirty channel of any amplifier,
You can't.
is that the consistency is really hard to achieve.
Yeah. Because you step on your pedal and it doesn't do what you expect it to. To all the JEM owners out there, I'm really sorry, but there couldn't have been a worse sound that Dan could have stepped on when I picked up this guitar. Can I just see if I can make this guitar sound sonorous?
Yeah.
Can I have the filaments into
Yes.
the Hiwatt?
Yep.
So much mid-range in this guitar.
Yeah.
Like crazy amount of mid-range. Yeah, as you can tell, it's an alien world to Enough. Stop that. We tried to get a humbucker guitar on the show to show what it does, but I just don't understand it enough to be able to demonstrate it in a way that means anything.
Sure, that sounds great. Yeah. That sounds great.
This, I understand this much more, and that works because it's kind of, it's more familiar, isn't it?
Sure.
So apologies to all JEM owners. They do sound great, and you make them sound great, but I literally don't know how to do that.
Okay. So I thought you made that sound great.
Thanks.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Should we talk about, before we turn the gain down, should we talk about
delays?
Yes.
So what I wanted to show you with the filaments right into the clean amplifier, I've got the ecosystem and the reverb here from Empress Effects. So into the clean amp, just with a clean sound, this is the delay. Add a bit of reverb on that.
So they're in the front of the amp.
So that's into the front of the clean amp.
Yeah.
Now, if I hit the filaments, and again, so the filaments is now going into the delay, which is now going into the reverb, and that's hitting the front of the amp. Okay.
Hands down the best sound we've had all day.
Right.
In my ears.
Sure. Really big, right? Because the amp has headroom, it's taking those delays and reverbs, but you still have definition from the guitar.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I take that same sound without putting the filaments on, just into the dirty amplifier, and I'm going to kick the delay and reverb into the front of the Victory. Again, filaments, delay, reverb into the Hiwatt. Victory. So a really good demonstration there again of the headroom thing, because in the Hiwatt, the delay is sitting underneath the level of the guitar.
Why is it so much louder in the Victory?
Because of the headroom thing.
The effects, I mean.
Right, so if you imagine into the Hiwatt, we've got all this range, okay? Our distortion is going into the delay, right? So we have our main tone that's going into the delay. We've set the delay level to work with that distortion, and then that goes into the reverb, but we still have we still hear the signal of the guitar.
Yeah.
In the Victory, it's the other way around. All that gain is after the delay and reverb. So the delay and reverb are hitting that distortion, and it's like we did with the booster. Even though the booster was quieter, it didn't make any difference to the volume of the amplifier, because the amplifier is already at no headroom. So the delays and reverbs, they sound mushy because it's got nowhere to go. There's no dynamics for it.
Which isn't a good and a bad thing necessarily, because if there's any shoegazers watching, if there are, that reverb and delay in front of overdrive is a big part of some of those sounds, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not about, this is better than that or this is worse than that. It's about knowing what the effect will be so that you can use it to your best advantage.
Yeah.
But if you want clean sounding delays and reverbs, putting them before distortion is not.
That's right.
Which is why effects loops exist.
Exactly. So what we've got here, we've got an Echoplex and a Hall Mod reverb that are in the loop. So what's happening with the effects loop of the amplifier, if you imagine that the filaments is like the preamp going into the Hiwatt.
Yep.
So guitar goes into the filaments, it creates all of that lovely gain that we're hearing, and then that's going into the delay and reverb, and then into the front of the amplifier. Okay, so our signal is going directly into the Victory. After the preamp, there's a split between the preamp and the power amp section.
Yeah.
So it sends the signal after the preamp, it's sending out from the send of the amplifier. That cable is now going into the delay, then into the reverb, and then that is going back into the effects return. So you've got your preamp and your power amp, and there's that split. And when we put the cables in, it splits from the preamp to the power amp. So preamp is now going into the delay, into the reverb, and then back into the power amp. And then you have a very different experience.
I think it's worth just reflecting on that for a second, because that whole split that you're talking about is not the same in every amp, is it?
Oh,
it's achieved very differently in different amps in terms
absolutely.
of how the signal is sent and recovered.
Yep.
In terms of its strength, how it's buffered. So quite often on the subject of effects loops, people think Dan and I are slightly insane for not using effects loops, but for me it's because of that. It's because we use high headroom amps, and I really struggle with most effects loops.
Yeah. So one thing that a lot of people comment about with effects loops is it changes the tone of the amplifier. And if you think about, you've got this valve-driven preamp section, and if we say all effects loops aren't created equal, if the output impedance of that preamp isn't low enough, then it's not going to drive the cable going to and back from the effects.
Yeah, it's why a lot of people have buffers and boosts in their
all
loops,
that
isn't
stuff.
it?
If you think about even when Howard Dumble created the Dumbleator, that was to match up all the impedances and levels from preamps and things. So it's getting them right. The Dave Friedman, who we need to honk because I've met him a number of times at NAMM, amazing guy, amazing designer. And the effects loops that he's created on his amps are killer.
Right.
But he takes all that into account.
Yeah, okay.
So what's going on here, and the Victory preamps, effects loops, sound ace as well.
They seem to. Rabir certainly likes it.
Yeah. So now what we're going to do is we're treating the, if you think of the preamp and the Victory like a pedal, now that's going to be going into the delay and into the reverb. So if you play that...
you play, because then the sounds will be similar.
Okay, all right. So... And now when I hit the boost, again going into the preamp, so the boost is going to hit the preamp, and the preamp's going to go back into the...
Yep.
If I just hear the delay going to the front.
do that. Do that again.
Yep.
But I just want to turn the level down on the delay in the loop.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, in the front.
In the front? Okay,
Yep.
so we'll turn the delay off in the front.
Yeah.
And then there's that's the delay off in the loop, and this is the delay in the front. So as soon as it's in there...
I did that deliberately because one of the problems a load of people have running delay into a Gainy amp is the delay is always overpowering.
Sure.
And it seems no matter how low you run the output on the ecosystem there, it's still too loud.
But let's have a listen to what that sounds like in the clean amp. So,
Yeah.
Right, so here we go. And then this is the ecosystem. If we turn that down now...
Won't
lower,
go down much more than that. Case closed, me lad. The learning thing there is if you're using a high headroom amplifier, a cleanish amplifier, then by all means run your delays into the front as we do after overdrive pedals. If you're using a Gainy amp with loads of overdrive, running a delay into the front of that is more problematic. Great for some sounds, but certainly problematic if you want it nice and clean sounding.
Yeah. The other thing is there are if you have an amplifier that you crank to get the sound and it doesn't have an effects loop, it's very tricky. There are products out there though, like the Power Station from Hiwatt that allows you to run the amplifier into that and crank it, but also gives you an effects loop. So there are ways around it. But it's the reality is when the amplifier is limiting, it's limiting literally. Your choices are limited because and you've got to find things that work with that sound that you're happy with. But it's
definitely a lot of the subtle differences in pedals are ironed out completely when you get into a gain amp, aren't they?
Absolutely.
I mean, you could be using anything at that point in some cases. It's more about EQ. Right, okay, so to finish off then, I'm going to set up a less gainy sound in the Victory.
Okay, cool.
And we'll just go to what might actually be more relevant to a lot of people, which is the amp is just overdriving a bit. So you play, I'll find a sound that works.
That is gorgeous.
So what happens if you... I just want to try with humbuckers a sec. Hey, nearly went off the back there. I think that's pretty realistic, isn't it?
Yeah.
The guitar... So that's what happens with humbuckers. With my Strats, what would happen would be this. Obviously won't be anywhere near as powerful, but yeah, so...
But the difference isn't the style because it is in the Hiwatt, because the amp is still compressing.
Yes. So I'm going to forget the Strat today because it's not really... I don't know. I'm not very... Struggling, Dan. None of these sounds are sounds I would use, so I'm struggling.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. And it's it's tough. So I'll stick with this guitar because this is kind of a do-it-all. So let's just remind you of that for a second, and then we'll hear the Hiwatt, just the difference between the two. So now, what do our pedals do at this point then?
Okay, so let's try again with the, now that we've cleaned up the Victory a little bit, we'll try the delay and reverb in the front.
Yep.
All right, and see what the results we can get from that. So here we go.
Something approaching a inspirational sound at this point.
Yeah. But even so, like we were talking about before, changing the gain structure like that, and suddenly
it's making such a difference.
Yeah, everything reacts completely differently.
Yeah.
And you kick on the tube screamer, and there's that lift again.
Oh, look,
you know?
the tube screamer goes on. Mick's happy. So that was the delay into the front, was it?
Delay and reverb into the front.
Can I hear delay and reverb in the loop as a comparison?
Yep.
Much prefer it in the loop with the gain.
Yeah.
With the gained amp.
Yeah, because
even though it's not gained very much.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, the pedals are doing what they're meant to do. They're taking that signal, and then that's basically from the output of the reverb, it's going straight to the power amp.
Yeah.
You know, and the power amp, which is this huge open thing, so it can take all of the goodness from the reverb, whereas the reverb going into the front of the amplifier, because the amplifier is crunching, it's still limiting.
Yeah.
You know what it can do. So no, it's really interesting.
Okay, so let me just let me hear that into the Hiwatt then with some overdrive from, say, I don't know, the Filaments, but slightly less overdrive.
Okay.
Is that possible?
Yeah.
Less gain. And delay and reverb in the front, yeah?
Yep.
What did you do then?
I just put the tube screamer into the Filaments.
That is hilarious.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Literally, honestly, with the high gain in the amp and like a guitar that I don't understand, I cannot play. I can't play. And then amp with some headroom, couple of overdrive pedals. For me, But anyway, we shouldn't get into that because this isn't about that. This is about if you're facing problems running overdrives into your Gainy amps, this is why.
Yeah, just you need to understand that the amplifier is limiting.
Yeah.
Therefore, all the colours and shades that these overdrives, reproduce, won't necessarily be reproduced to the full in an amplifier. Or I can say, won't be reproduced to the full in an amplifier that's limiting in the way that a high gain amplifier, is.
Yeah.
So in that case, boosts and things that shape your tone.
Yeah.
And things that push, as opposed to, creating gain tones from the pedals.
That's what it was. I was hearing some modulation and I couldn't work out where it was coming from. It was coming from there. I hope that's useful information. Of course, the interesting part is that in the middle, the part in the middle, at what point is the amp too gainy for you to run your delays and reverbs in the front?
Yeah,
and that can be right on the edge for a lot of people, can't it?
Because that whole thing of turning the amplifier up to a point where it's just crunching, and that's where I love my amps to be. So how do you balance that? And it's a balancing act.
Everything matters at that point, doesn't
absolutely.
it? And it's all about how they blend together as one. There are lots of people out there who wouldn't ever think about or would sort of poo-poo an overdrive pedal because they just love that Gainy amp thing. And if that's you, brilliant,
awesome.
Because you've worked it out and you can. For me, if the amp's always got loads of gain in it, I'm the same. I would tend not to have any pedals. Mm-hmm. Must be my phone. Whose phone is it? And kind of have the amp fire breathing and use the volume control for everything else. But it's just a different way to do it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Okay. That didn't go exactly as I was expecting.
Really?
No.
What were you expecting?
I was expecting the tube screamer to have much more of an impact into the Hiwatt. I think because it might have been I was here all weekend making vlogs and I was hammering the 2-rock at 100 watts.
Okay.
So everything seems a bit quiet to me today.
Yeah, right.
But
this is a nice volume.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's pleasant. It's very pleasant.
It was all right at the end with the tube screamer and the filaments through the Hiwatt. I enjoyed that.
Brilliant. Well, cheers, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Please leave your comments and let us know. So massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much. Massive thank you to our preferred retailers in the UK and Europe is
Anderson's Music of Guildford in Surrey.
In the US of A
would be Riff City Guitar of New Hope, Minnesota, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and somewhere else.
Very nice. And in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia,
will be Pedal Empire.
Wonderful.
Please check those guys out and have a look at their websites. As we've said before, they pay us money to say that.
Yes, they stock a lot of this stuff and they're all good people. Also, if you're looking at Mick and thinking, I need a bit. I need a bit of that in my life. Or you're looking at some schwang over this side. All available at thatpedalshowstore.com. I think that's it.
I think that's it. I hope that was useful.
Yeah, look, it is. It's hearing. You have shades of that between amplifiers, but hearing it so stark.
Yeah.
Like that. I think that's fantastic.
Groovy.
Brilliant. All right, guys, have a fantastic week, and we'll see you soon.
Cheerio.
Bye.